All right, welcome everybody. This is the September 22nd regular meeting of the Darien, Connecticut Parks and Recreation Commission. We are unfortunately back to meeting virtually. We had the opportunity to meet in person in July, which was awesome, and hope to continue on that basis. But unfortunately, seems like just a whole lot in the world has changed since then. And it seemed like this was the better course of action. As you all probably know, at Town Hall now there is a full mask requirement, and it just seemed that trying to conduct a meeting which is being recorded and viewed on TV while we're all fully masked up would be very challenging. Just really hard to hear. I did do one work meeting week before last where we all had to be 6 foot spaced, fully masked the whole time, and it was very, very hard to hear the presenters. It just was very, very challenging. So I'm disappointed we're back to this. We will continue to watch it month to month and see if we can move back to an in-person, but this seemed to be the best course of action for right now, unfortunately. So I welcome everybody back. I hope you all had a terrific summer since we met back in, it seems like a really long time ago, in July. I hope you guys had a great rest of the summer. First order of business this evening is to welcome, we have 2 new members. I'm so pleased. We are back to full strength, which is awesome. We are a ladies brigade. Not quite sure how that happened, but it's just the way it is. I think in all my years on the commission, up until recently, we had a balance of men and women, but Jim, you are very outnumbered this evening. But I really want to welcome Kara and Janet to the commission and maybe ask you each to just give us just a quick, who you are, just, how long you've been in town and what interested you in Parks and Rec, not to totally put you on the spot, but we really look forward to getting to know you and work with you and meet more in person, but just a, quick hello to everybody would be great. So I'll just go in alphabetical order and start with Kara.
Hi, everybody. My name let's see, there's an echo. My name is Kara, and let's see. Am I the only one hearing the echo?
I'm not hearing an echo, but you're cutting in and out.
Okay, well, I'll try this again. My name's Kara. Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be part of the Parks and Rec Commission. I have lived in Darien for about 15 years, have 3 children in Darien and 3 dogs. I've been involved with a number of things in town. Previously was on the RTM and on the Parks and Rec Committee of the RTM. I'm also on the board of the Darien Land Trust, the Trust for Public Land, and some other land conservation boards. And I love living in Darien. I love our parks and our open space and our beaches. And I feel like that's where people are their best and where they connect with their community. And so that's really what motivated me to want to be on the commission. So thank you for having me.
Great, welcome. And I now know that I mispronounced your first name and that it is Kara, not Kara. So we all got it. It's Kara. Okay, so work on that. All right, thank you. And Janet, where did you go? Now, I'm going to just tell the 2 of you that one of the challenges of running the meeting this way is as different people join, the tiles move around. So, Kara, you were in my lower left-hand corner, and now you've moved to the upper right. So if sometimes I seem a little, it's because I've lost people. So sometimes it just takes me a minute, like Janet just moved. So you got to bear with me. These are sort of the challenges of doing this. So Janet, who is now in my lower left corner, welcome.
Thank you, Lori. Hi, everyone. I'm Janet Kling. I've lived in town for 8 years. We moved here from the city in 2013 when my oldest was just 1 year old, and she's now turning 9. And I've since then had 3 more children while we've been here. And I second Kara. My children literally lived, at one of the parks or beaches here in town. I think just that, especially the first 5 or 6 years before, when everyone was like in preschool, there was a lot of time, school was only half day. So we spent a lot of time at Cherry Lawn, taking walks in Olson Woods. I'm also on the Darien Land Trust board as a trustee along with Kara. I've been in I've been a trustee at Darien Land Trust for about 4 years. So we're, my family and I go to Selleck's Woods and Dunlap Lake a lot. Obviously Wheat Beach and just all the playgrounds around town, I think, are where my kids and I are very familiar. And so I just want to, obviously join the board and pay it forward in any way I can and contribute in any way to help, improve our amenities even more for our town and for any newcomers as well as existing residents. And my family and I are members at the Rowan Presbyterian Church. Trying to think if there's anything else that we're affiliated with in town, but that's it for now. Again, thanks for having me, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Great, thank you, Janet. And again, we're so pleased to be back to full strength. It's been a while now, so I just think with everything that's coming forward and whatever, it's really going to be just great for us. Also want to welcome this evening Jim and Jean. Pam and Jamie Gore are in Nashville working very hard, I am certain, at the National Recreation and Parks Association conference, which apparently they went ahead and had in person. So they are down there this week, and hopefully we'll bring back lots of, great information and ideas for us. Normally our meeting would have been last week, but we moved it because of the Jewish holiday fell on that night, and then it just didn't seem to make sense to push it out even further, given that we had an August hiatus. So Jim is going to be playing Pam tonight, I guess. Jean is going to be helping us with minutes, and so we welcome you both to our meeting this evening, and thanks for helping us out tonight. We really appreciate it. Okay. Our next order of business is public comment. Jim, I'm not aware if anybody registered in advance.
Laura, the next item is actually the minutes from July.
Oh, I skipped over. You are right. See, he's keeping me in check already. My eyes went right over that. Okay, so let's go to the July minutes, and then we will go to public comment. Does anybody have any updates or changes to the minutes from our July meeting? I have a few minor things, but as usual, anybody else, if you'd like to go, that would be fine.
Jean, I apologize in advance. I always have changes. It's Kathy.
We count on you for changes, Kathy.
And hopefully I'm not echoing either. It sounds like it's echoing a little bit from here.
Nope.
In the first section regarding the discussion on the vote of the removal of the white pine trees, I don't think, and just correct me if I'm wrong, Commission, I don't think we said we wanted to remove the tree to be replaced. I think we kind of pushed that decision out. We considered that. So I would just say the Commission considered that if they removed the tree, it would be replaced and moved further back.
I think you're right. I believe the discussion was if it was determined that they needed to be removed, we wanted it replaced. So in other words, we were in alignment that we wouldn't want to just take down a tree without putting up a new tree. So maybe the wording there was a little clunky. Do you have better wording?
Yeah, I'd say we just considered, I would say the Commission considered that if the removal of the tree was necessary, it would be replaced and moved further back.
Okay.
And I think that was the discussion.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that, Kathy. Jean, do you have that? We're recording, so we know we can always check back.
And
yes.
Then I just wanted to know, we had the pictures at the end from the public comment, and I just didn't know if we wanted to just have a discussion of what the public comment was.
We could do that. It does say Mr. Arrington expressed concerns regarding the restrooms at Pear Tree Point Beach. Specifically, what do we want to say? That they were, evidence of, where are they? Look at the pictures.
Yeah, I think he wanted us to see if we could have a plan of action. regarding the rust in the bathroom.
Right.
And,
I-
and,
yep.
and I was going to reach out to Pam because when I was away this summer, I was at a beach bathroom that was gorgeous, probably extraordinarily expensive, but it didn't get any mold because it was all cedar.
Yep.
So it's just an idea of maybe we try different materials so there isn't so much maintenance for Pam and the rest of the team by the beach. So.
So maybe we could add, express concerns regarding the restrooms at Pear Tree Point Beach, comma, specifically, rusted sinks and chipping
Shower. Yeah.
paint in the showers, you know, pictures attached to minutes.
Exactly.
Maybe not specifically say including, because I don't think it was just those two. I would say including.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I just
Okay.
want to represent why he came and what he talked about.
Good, thank you.
That's it.
That's it. Others?
No.
The only, just a couple very minor things I noticed, Jean, on page 2 under the public comment section, where it refers to Adele, both on page 2 and also back.
Thank you. But we're gonna, you need to really.
I got it.
I'm not sure. I don't know who's speaking.
It was Cheryl. I muted her. You're good.
Oh, okay. Both on page 1 under attendance and on page 2 under public comment. Adele Coniff, her name is misspelled. The last name is Conniff, so just 2 N's. And then also for her comments, it says Ms. Coniff presented it says the summer report. I believe it should have been the summary report, I think. Adele, you're in there. I see you.
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Okay. I think it would be the summary report.
Lori, what page is that?
Page 2, Jim, under public comment, the second, Adele was the second speaker.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So I think it's read, just those are the 2 things, it's summary and then just correcting the spelling of her name. Were the only things I had. Okay. We still got to teach Jamie not to attach these big attachments to the minutes because I just hit print and then all of a sudden I'm printing pictures of toilets and sinks and not happy. So got to be a way to figure that out. All right. So any other changes? No. Okay. Then if I can have a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay.
Okay. Mary Louise. Okay.
Aye.
And Susan, do you want a second? Okay. And Jim, as you know, we have to, when we're on virtual, we have to roll call.
And Lori, do you want Janet and I to vote even though we weren't on the commission for the last meeting?
My reading of Robert's Rules of Order said that you can vote on the minutes even if you were not present at the meeting. That is my reading of Robert's Rules. Okay. So do you just want to read our names off, Jim, or how do you want to do it?
We'll do it that way. Typically, it's Jamie that does it. So, Jeannie, are you?
Or Jeannie?
Yeah, I'll do it. That's fine. But this is who? Jeannie, do you have who made the motion and who seconded?
It was Mary Louise and Susan.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to go right around my screen. Sarah.
Yes.
All right. Susan.
She seconded.
Oh, she did. Sorry about that. Tier.
Pierre?
Yep.
Her hands up. Okay, that's a yes.
And are
Sorry.
Cara and Janet voting or no?
Sure.
Yes. All right. Cara.
Yes.
Sorry.
Mary Louise made the motion. Lori.
Yes.
Janet. Yes. And Kathy.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's everybody.
Okay, great. All right, now we're on to public comment. So Jim, did anybody register in advance?
I did not hear from anybody today.
Okay, we seem to have a fairly small audience, so I'm certainly happy to open it up to the individuals that are out there. I just see a handful of folks. It looks like probably everybody's a member of the RTM Parks and Rec Committee. So I don't know. Do you guys want to make any comments this evening? Adele?
No, not in particular. No, thank you.
Okay. Any other members of your committee? No? All right, then we will move on. All right, the next item is we have a presentation by Bob Gillian, who I saw, there he is, now he's in the middle of my screen. He's moved around several times. Regarding the proposed new entrance to Selleck's Woods and Dunlap Woods from Parkland Drive. Hopefully, Bob, you can give us a little bit of an overview of the project. Some folks may be more aware of it than others, and then talk about the specific, structure that you're proposing putting near the entrance of the park. As I understand it, and I'm sure you'll touch on this, the structure is not actually on park property, but adjacent to it. And Pam said, therefore, we don't actually need to vote to approve it, but that you wanted to get a sense of the meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So, Bob, we look forward to your presentation.
I appreciate the time. We've managed Parklands Drive since 2003, and we've had a very good relationship with Chris Filmer and Selleck Woods over the years. So I thought it made sense to chat with everybody about what we'd like to do as we change from an office building to a multi-family building. I want to enhance the use of Selleck Woods through a few things that I would like everybody to agree to. I'll accept input on it. I've met with Chris Filmer, Ham Gary, Darien Land Trust, and Selleck Woods people. So what I'd like to do is tonight take you through what we're planning on doing and get your feedback. As probably some of you know, the demand for office space has decreased dramatically, even pre-pandemic, if you're not walk to the train station. So I started pursuing an alternative use to our current office building, which is right in front of the entrance to Selleck Woods off Parklands Drive. And what I'm proposing and talking to the town for approval is to replace our current office building with a multi-family building that would have 60 rental units in it. And the building will have amenities both inside and outside. Inside, we're envisioning a game room, a kitchen room common for everybody to use, a gym, and then outside we'll have a large patio that would face the north side of our building, or the east side, let's say, that would have a couple of fire pits, some barbecue grills for the residents to use. And in addition, I'm hopeful that having some additional residents here, or having residents here, will give Selleck Woods some more stewards, people that will not only participate in Selleck Woods, but will be here and see what's going on. As Chris has said, and probably some of you know, there are times at night and on the weekend that things occur around here that none of us would like to see. So I think having some additional residents here would enhance the property. What I'm proposing is that three things. One is the entrance to Selleck Woods. Currently, it is in a spot that I think is somewhat dangerous because a lot of the parking is beyond the entrance, so people come in, drive past the entrance, then walk back to the entrance with other cars coming in. So I'm proposing we move the entrance from where it is now all the way to the end of all the parking spaces. So it would be toward the back of where all the parking is. So I'd like to move the entrance. And you're correct. The entrance that I'm proposing is on our property. However, I will only do it with the approval of everybody involved. What I also want to do is I want to have a grander structure that would be somewhat in keeping with the architecture of what we're talking about building. I'd like to make it wider so people could not only enter Selleck Woods, but there'd be seating area right there. So that's one part that I want to propose. The second is right now, Selleck Woods has 2 dedicated parking spaces. The rest of the parking spaces are for the office building. What I'm proposing is that I would give Selleck Woods all the parking spaces in the back, which with the changes would be 11 dedicated parking spaces, and Selleck Woods can put up signs saying that. So they would not be for any of the residents. From a parking standpoint, we will continue to have underbuilding parking. We'll have parking out in front, and we have parking that is shared in the assisted living garage. So we will have plenty of parking for all the residents. They would not be allowed to park on the 11 spaces that I'm talking about dedicated to Selleck Woods. And then the third piece, as you look at the current entrance to Selleck Woods and look to the right, there is a piece of land that we've given an easement to the land trust, and we will give an additional piece of property for the land trust. So basically, it's like a pie-shaped piece of land that goes all the way down to the lake. That is an easement in perpetuity for the land trust. So those are the three pieces of what I'm proposing that we would do. I think they will all enhance the use of Selleck Woods. So I'm hopeful, and I've gotten good feedback from Chris, from Pam Gary, from the land trust. And so I think it would enhance the connection between 60 residents here and Selleck Woods and the use thereof. So that's the project that I'm proposing. I'm right now in front of planning and zoning with a site plan application that shows the building, which would be 3 stories. It has a combination of bays and gables. It has stone. It has shingles and multiple colors. So I think it's an enhancement to the neighborhood, and hopefully it'll be well received. So that's an overview of the plan, the 3 things we would like to do that enhance Selleck Woods. So I'd like to open up to questions.
Bob, so what you're suggesting is taking down your office building at 3 Parklands and replacing it with this new structure?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What's your time frame on that?
I'm sorry?
What is your time frame on that?
We would hope to get approval from planning and zoning by the end of the year, first part of 2022. I would like to start construction in the first half of 2022 and have it completed by the first half of 2023.
Thank you.
Hi,
Susan?
Susan Bailey here.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for you about the parking.
Yes.
What a great gift that you're giving the town in terms of making this beautiful structure and entrance for us. But one of the questions I have relate to parking. I know that there's always been 2 designated spots, but with the events, I know that sometimes they use the spots for like exhibits, and we end up overflowing to probably your garage and other places. And I didn't know if there were other opportunities to do that overflow, because now that you've designated the 11 and you have, like in the past, it wasn't a big issue because you had office workers, if there were people there that would be not there on weekends, So I didn't know if there was going to be any opportunity to kind of have that space if there's a special event or if there's, you know, just increased usage because it's going to be such a nice place for them to go.
It's a great question. And I talked to Chris about this in detail. So to give you an idea, the parking spaces in the garage will be dedicated and assigned to specific units. So I would say that we would not use on a weekend where you've got a charity event or a big gathering. What we will do is available to you will be the parking that will be in front of the building, which is approximately 45 spaces. And then in the assisted living building, I've got the right to use 56 spaces. So the front of the building and the garage would be available. And just as a for instance, the event that you had in the spring, Pam Gary was out there directing people to those 2 spaces. So that would make the most sense and we would continue that.
So any group that wanted to use the space for any type of bigger groups, they should come to your organization to get permission to use those spaces ahead of time, or?
Yes. Okay. And it's more a coordination as opposed to an approval. For instance, the event that was held in the spring, literally nobody parked in the garage. Chris, Pam, and I all agreed it made sense to have people park in front of our building or in the assisted living and then walk down. So we really limited traffic coming down the driveway while people are going back to cars. And I would suggest we'll continue that.
Thank you for your reply. This is great. Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions? Kathy?
I had one question. Again, thank you for your presentation to us and your gift of both land and parking spaces to Parks and Rec in the town. It's really generous on your part. Have you looked at the environmental impact of what your new building would be on the area? Did you have to do a study for that? Because you're adding a lot of people, so I just don't know if there's a concern from an environmental standpoint.
The answer is, I've basically got, I think it's 12 different consultants that we've retained. So we've done a traffic study that says there'll be less traffic, automobile traffic, with multifamily than will be with the office building. So Monday through Friday, less traffic. So we did a traffic study. We've done a noise study, and that concluded that the noise, which fundamentally will be from the air conditioning condensers on the roof, will be less noise because it'll be overridden by I-95 traffic. So we did that study. We've done a study on groundwater, and believe it or not, the amount of additional impervious land, which is basically, you know, proper land that won't drain, is something like 100 square feet. So it's not a significant increase in impervious land. We're doing a lighting study, and all the lighting will be either low level, like bollards, or down lighting. I'm trying to think if I've missed any studies that is responsive to your question. I think those are the ones we've done.
No, it is responsive. So I appreciate your answer, and I appreciate what you've done so far. So thank you.
Ken Woodbine, who you can't see, but he's the director of property management for us, wanted to remind me the trash will be moved from outside where it is now to inside in the garage. So each floor in the building will have a trash chute. It'll go down to the middle of the garage where there'll be a compactor. And so when trash gets picked up, it'll be wheeled out to a truck and taken out. So right now, if you'll know, we've got an enclosure for trash. That'll be gone.
Bob, this is Janet Kling. Oh,
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Janet.
hi. I just had a question. Your environmental group study, as part of that, I was wondering, did they conduct a wastewater study by any chance?
Absolutely.
In terms of relative to the capacity in the office building and the current number of people versus the 66 units of multifamily units?
Absolutely. Currently, basically all our wastewater goes to a holding tank now and is pumped up to Old Kings Highway. But before it's pumped, it's ground, then it's pumped up. And so we did a study about what's needed with 60 multifamily units versus the office building. We've done that study. And then we went further to make sure that the pumping stations down Old Kings Highway can handle it. So the answer is yes, we've done the study and we have the capacity to handle it.
So when you say you're currently pumping it to Old Kings Highway, is that to pump it to a sewer pipe that leads it to Stanford, the treatment plant?
It's the existing pumping station that's there now. So
Yeah.
I don't know where it goes after that. But the point being that
Capacity will be able to meet the new demand?
yes. Yeah, we've done that study, and the answer is yes, it'll meet the demand.
Thank you.
This is Cara. Thank you so much for your presentation. Who did your traffic study?
Kermit, and I've forgotten Kermit's last name. Kermit Wong. It's the same individual, that company that we hired to do the traffic study for the assisted living facilities. And in fact, we also had him here on a Saturday to measure traffic on Old Kings Highway for Saturday, because obviously the office building on a Saturday is going to be pretty empty compared to having residents here on the weekend. So we looked at the traffic study, included looking at the hours of 11 Saturday morning to 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon, because those on a Saturday are considered to be the busiest times. So we also looked at that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
With 60 units, about how many residents would you anticipate? I don't know what the layout is, whether they're studios or 3 bedrooms, or what's the mix of apartment sizes?
Good question. I forgot to tell you that. There would be 6 studio apartments, and we're doing the studios because Steve Ovani, the chairman of PNC, asked for lower price point apartments. So we added 6 studios. There'll be 29 one-bedroom apartments. And of those, 26 will be 1 bedroom plus a den. And then there'll be 26 2-bedroom apartments, all of which will have a den. There will be no 3-bedroom apartments.
Okay, so round numbers, would you guess that equates to probably on average, what, 2.5 people per unit, something like that?
For the 60 units, well, I would think the average would be much less than that.
Less than that.
Much less. We think very few will have any school children. We looked at the numbers, and it's de minimis for that. So if you look at the 1 bedroom, I haven't thought about how many people would be there, but if you said 26 2-bedrooms and put 2 people in each one of those, I'm at 52. I've got 29 1-bedrooms, so I could be at 81 plus 6. So I would be under 100 people probably.
Okay, but even if you average, overall 2, because a 2-bedroom, you could have a couple with a child or whatever, even you could. We're talking average 2.5 people per unit. That's 60, 120, maybe 150 people that would be living there. I'm just thinking about, the impact of the park. And I wonder, we want people in our parks, but it is a nature preserve, and with lots of people, impacts, the animals. One of the issues that we always struggle with is off-leash dogs in the park. And, we would want to make sure that the residents understood and, that building management was helping us monitor to make sure that the park is used properly. Things of that nature. So it doesn't sound like it would bring, all the residents certainly aren't going to be in the park at one time, but it's not like a 250 massive apartment project that could bring, 500 people in proximity to the park. It sounds pretty manageable. But I just think we would be looking for your support. I mean, office workers, maybe they use it at lunchtime. I don't know, but probably generally less usage. I would expect residents would be using it, but it doesn't sound like it would be a really high impact to the nature preserve, and that hopefully you could help us, assure that we do have, compliance with, the specific, the specific rules that we have in the park that are really to take care of the natural resources in the park.
Well, I would agree with you. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to manage the complex. So we'll have we're going to manage the construction, and we're going to manage the project or the building once it's completed.
Okay.
So we'll definitely be here to manage it. So that's my first point. The second point I would tell you is that I would expect at the rental numbers that I'm told we will be able to get. I think we're talking about people that we should expect will be reasonable stewards of the area. We're talking about the studios renting for $2,000 a month, and the 2-bedroom plus dens renting in the neighborhood of $4,200 a month. So I'm astounded by that, and yet if you look around, there are rental numbers even higher than that. So I think we're going to attract a group of people that want to be in Darien, that are responsible. But since we're going to manage it, we will also make sure we manage it so that it's compatible with the environment that we're in.
Okay, great.
And that's very important to me. I've been here since 2001. I bought the building in 2005, and we've had a great relationship with Selig Woods. It's a tremendous asset for the town of Darien, and frankly, it's a tremendous asset, I think, for the people that would rent here. And so it's incumbent upon us, if we want to keep our building rented, it's incumbent upon us this to be an environment and an area that people are proud to be here. And so I'm committed to that.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that, Bob. Other questions or comments? Commission members? Scanning, no? Okay.
Laura, I just have one quick question.
Sure, Jim, thank you.
Bob, thank you for the presentation. You don't anticipate any access issues during construction? People will still be able to access Selig Woods in that area?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we both had those problems during the construction of the assisted living facility. I was not able to manage what they did. They hired a construction company that was not responsive to my needs or your needs. And there were times when access was cut off, the road was supposed to be blacktopped and it was crushed rock. You couldn't hold a charity event one year. I had a client downstairs that I had to give a $200,000 rent credit for because of the disruption. It was a disaster. This time, I own this property, and I'm going to manage the construction. And one of the things I committed to Chris Filmer, and I will commit to you, is the road will always be open. Access to Selig Woods will be always there. We're not going to shut it down. It's just not acceptable.
Okay. Great thing. Good question, Jim. I thought of that earlier and then it went out of my head. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Others?
And I'm happy, I would be happy to provide each of you the drawings we've got for the building. I think when you see it, I think you'll look at it and say it's well designed. It's very compatible with the feeling of a New England town. It's got bays, it's got gables, and I think it'll be a great addition to the neighborhood.
Jim, I think we did send that out, right? Jim, you sent it out to everybody within the last 48 hours, I think.
Yeah, I think on Monday,
Yeah.
maybe
Yep.
afternoon.
Right.
Yeah, you should have
Yep,
that. It looks
we did.
great.
And a picture of the entrance structure, I believe, was also sent out by Pam as well to every commission members. Yes. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
I wasn't sure you got it. I knew I handed it out to Pam and other people. So I'm glad you've seen that.
Yes, we've all seen it.
Good.
We've all seen it. So good. Okay. So commission members, any last questions or comments before we let him go and move on to the next topic? I would think we really appreciate you being in front of the commission, keeping us up to date on your thinking, your partnership, and your clear dedication to the stewardship of the park. I think was very important for all of us, to hear. It is a treasure of the town. Most of the commission members and if not all, certainly know the history of the park and how it almost met a demise some years ago and was really brought back through the hard work of Chris Filmer and others. And it's an important asset, and to hear that you're committed to maintaining that and helping support it, I think was really what we all needed to hear.
And
So.
just to put it in perspective, it's in my own self-interest that I do what I said, because these are rental units. So it's important that we do what we said so I can keep it rented. People are happy to be here. And I won't tell you all the things that have occurred, but over the years, we've had some very unusual things happen in our garage because nobody's here at night. So I'm anticipating and hoping, and Chris Filmer is the first one who said it to me, that we could have additional stewards of Selleck Woods here that would look at what's going on, and maybe we'll have fewer drug deals going on in the back, etc. So it's in my own self-interest to do what I said, and I plan on doing it.
Okay. Well, we will absolutely look forward to partnering with you. Once your project is complete and people are moved on, I'm sure we'll find ways to, to brainstorm and really, partner for the benefit of the community at large.
Great. I appreciate your time today.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, Bob.
Okay. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. All right. Okay, next we will be moving on to the standards of care document. Just get it in front of me. Okay, so we talked about this in August, and just to provide a little context to bring Janet and Cara up to speed. Currently, the commission doesn't have what we would consider sort of written guiding principles as to how we would like to see the parks maintained. And a few years ago, we started our annual walk around of the parks. And of course, we all get into the parks, and have our own personal observations that we will, send to Pam and the staff. Certainly we get community input about things that people see and would like to be changed up. More recently, we've gotten some inputs from some town individuals who are master gardeners who have pointed out some issues we've got at Cherry Lawn and also at Weed Beach with invasive plants that really threaten our trees. So what we thought would be a good thing to do would be to have a document that is effectively a guiding principles of how we would want to see the parks, maintained. It's more of a baseline. It's not really the big projects, the big development sort of projects that you might think about, but it's more taking what we have now and determining, at what level we want it. And some of the push-pull we have sometimes is Pam has limited resources in terms of dollars and staff, like parks maintenance staff. And I think sometimes feels that, she's got to squeeze what she proposes into her available resources. Now, yes, this is a municipal government, but in an ideal world, we flip that narrative and we say, as a community, this is what we expect our parks to look like. And what does it take to do that? And then ask for it. So if Pam's got, I don't know what the number is, Jim, but I think it's like 6 parks crew. If we say really to maintain to reasonable standards that the community is telling us they want can't be done with 6 people, we need 9 people, and we have to figure a way to quantify that and prove it, then we need to go and ask for 9 people. Now, the selectmen and the Board of Finance and the RTM can decide as whether to fund us for that or not, but we need to be the ones putting that forward and saying, what do we want? What do we want the parks to look like? So this was documented is sort of crafting that and putting that down on paper with what we would call general standards that would apply to all of the parks. But then from there, then we could go to each park and say, okay, let's go to Cherry Lawn. How are we doing against each of these standards and what needs to be improved? And it then will allow us quantify and measure and say, okay, what's it going to take to get each park to these standards? So that's a little bit of the backdrop. I mean, in theory, we could say we want A+ parks. We could say we want B-. You know what I'm saying? It's just, we have to decide as a commission, to what level we feel is appropriate for the community. When we were away in August, we got stuck for 3 days in Newburyport, Massachusetts, where we had to wait for Henri to come and go because we were on our boat and had to drive home on our boat and couldn't do that during a hurricane. I had only been to Newburyport very briefly once about 5 or 6 years ago, but we were actually we ended up staying on their municipal dock with a beautiful municipal boaters building with, restrooms and showers for the boaters and laundry and municipal bathrooms. They had a 2-mile boardwalk along the whole harbor. Behind it was a beautiful municipal park, fresh flowers everywhere, staff on the weekends going, drying off seats, picking up garbage. I mean, I was blown away by the parks in Newburyport, Mass. I was just blown. I was like, I'm ready to move here. Just top shelf level. Now, we could all dream with that and say, okay, maybe that's not realistic, but, it just got it really showed me that you could see this was a community that was very committed to having really top-notch parks. It was really, if you're looking for a great place to go for a weekend, go to Newburyport, Massachusetts. It was really just phenomenal. Restaurant, shopping, whole main shopping streets, tons of planters with fresh flowers. It was really a wow. So anyway, I digress a little bit, but I mean, it really struck that you could see, and I talked to a lot of, because we were there for 3 days, talked to some of the municipal workers and townspeople we got to know, and they said that the town really puts a premium on its public facilities. It was really interesting to see. So that's a little bit of the backdrop here. The meeting in July, I believe everybody was in general agreement that they were reasonably happy with this document, but I really wanted everybody to think about it and see if there's any specific phrases that we need to add in here and whether there's things that have been missed. And I know Jeannie's taking notes, but if people throw things out and say, I really think we need a phrase on trees or this or that, if a couple people who would be willing to help finalize this could jot those down, because it's hard to facilitate calling on people and listening and watching you move around the screens and writing it down. So that would be super, super helpful as well. Just to get people's juices throwing, and some might be too, I don't want to, we have to balance not being too granular. But, you know, ideas that I had notes from our last meeting is whether we want any kind of statement about organics. Do we need any kind of statement about trees? Very hot topic right now. Any statement about trash? I had some notes about equipment inspections by professionals and/or annual inspections of trees. Were a couple of things I jotted down. So let me just open it up for suggestions or comments of things people think need to be added in. And is somebody gonna, or one or two of you kind of gonna write some stuff down? That would be just Mary Louise, yes?
What comes to my mind first is what's underlying all of this is money. And these things aren't really, quote, a capital expense, but I think we need to think about having something put in the operating budget to cover all of this. And also, I think, Kathy, you were the one that made a comment with reference to all the storms that we're having, that there needs to be something in the budget basically to cover you know, removing trees that come down in our parks and so on, which is probably going to happen more than it has in the past. So I guess the question to you is, where do we, does this has to go into an operating budget, correct?
Well, I think the money part where I attempted to cover that, it's the third paragraph where it says, it is noted that the department's ability to implement these standards is reliant on the availability of sufficient financial and human resources through the annual town budget process. So to me, this is saying, this is how we, with community input, feel the park should be maintained, but we can't do it unless we get the funding.
Correct.
So this isn't really set to intend to inform the budget. It's to say we feel this is the money we need because what we've been told by the community, and we'll talk about sort of this next, is who we feel we should be getting this out to, and then including a public hearing. This is what the community has told us their expectations are. And then it's up to, see, the tricky thing about our commission, and just to digress a wee bit for a moment for Janet and Cara, is we have legal control of the parks, but what we don't actually have control of is the budget. So we are fully reliant that we work with Pam every year and put together a proposed operating and capital budget, but it can get cut by the town administrator, first stop, selectman, second stop, Board of Finance, third stop, RTM, fourth stop. So at the end of the day, we don't control the purse strings at all. So all we can do is say that based on what we've heard from the community and what we believe as the appointed stewards of these parks, these are how they should be taken care of, but we can't do it without the resources, and we are, in fact, reliant on others for those resources. That's just the way our government works, like it or not. It's a tricky situation. It's tricky, but I think we're, as I was saying, I think where it's hard for Pam and Jim and the others is, you know, sometimes they feel, well, we can do as much as with what we've got, and there's a reluctance to ask for more because there's always pressure to operate to a zero-based budget growth or whatever. You know, then we may have to accept that, you know, these are the standards we'd like to operate to. We're not getting the money from all of it, and then we would have to prioritize. So it's a balancing act, but it seems important to start with what are the baseline standards expectations. For instance, Cherry Lawn, we now have, you know, had pointed out to us, that the invasives are really a problem and will probably end up killing the trees. So we need to think about how we're going to do about that. Is that acceptable to us or not? Have an adopted statement and then go about how we tackle it.
Okay.
But, you know, we first have to sort of lay out as a commission saying, you know, what we feel is important for the park is that we don't let the invasives get out of control. We know we're going to have a big project to take care of them. And it's huge. I think we all understand that at this point, that it's a huge project. But in an ideal world, they never would have gotten to that point to begin with.
Okay.
I did just read, I mean, to your point about maybe doing things preventatively versus, you know, reactionary. I just noticed that when I was reading last meeting's minutes, there was I think it mentioned that it was the commission's intention to hire certified arborists to review trees in our parks. And I thought I read that we wanted that to be in this standard of care document, but then I didn't see it in the standard of care document yet. Is that something we still wanted to include, or again, it just depends, or are we still deliberating on that?
We're still deliberating. So I just presented this at the August meeting for people to think about over the summer and then come back with views on what should be added. So that's really the purpose of the discussion now, is for us to agree on which specific items should be added. So if people think that, regular review, of our tree inventory by certified arborists should be a piece of this, then we should add it.
So and then Janet, that's a great comment. I just wanted to go back to Mary Louise's comment, which is, Mary Louise, what about adding something about evolving our parks in response to climate change? And that's a standard. We're going to have to evolve how we think about our trees and our plants as we respond to hotter temperatures and colder temperatures and constant up and down storms.
I think that makes sense.
Yep. I like that, Kathy.
And then I had another question about, what about beautifying or taking that to the next level, like making our parks better? Is that part of our standards of care?
It can be, if that's what you guys want.
Making them as beautiful as what you were describing up in Newburyport. They are beautiful at times, but maybe not all the time. You guys do a great job, and they are gorgeous so many days.
Yeah.
But maybe we can take them up to another level, provided we give Pam the staff to do that.
Right.
So that's one idea.
Okay. Do we want anything in here about organics? I know that gets tricky. We've had so many discussions about it. So I think prescribing that becomes difficult, but we could make some statement towards a preference towards, or.
I don't want to be the sole voice, but I'm in favor of that. So, but I don't want to be the sole voice. It really has to be a collective decision.
I think preference for, to be included. I think also what kind of a report we get from Highland and the playing field over at Cherry Lawn that are both organic, as to, how that plays out over the next year or two, could also influence this.
Yeah, Juliet Kane, I was going to mention this later, but Juliet Kane, I may have meant to send this to you guys, maybe I didn't, but she sent an article that I believe, and I'll send it up, I did, that Stamford just adopted an ordinance around use of organics.
Okay.
So they were the first, so I will send that.
I wanted to go back to Lori, some of the comments you made in the beginning about we have to decide if we want to be Newburyport. Do we want an A+ park or a B- park? And I wonder if it would be helpful to that end to have an overall goal, which is we aim to maintain our parks at a high standard, consistent across all of our parks. So consistency across our facilities, but also maybe the standard could be comparable to the other towns in Fairfield County, just to have some standards, to your point. And I really support this effort. I think with a lot of these, though, it comes down to dollars and cents, and that it's up to us to put forward the idea. We think we should get rid of the invasives at Cherry Lawn Park because it will kill the trees and it's going to cost X. I think until we put a number there, it's going to be hard to get a blank check. So I think we have to do both, and it will evolve. But I think having a standard, and then the second point I was just going to make to the organics, and I'm sure there's been a lot of conversations, the words kept free of weeds made me worry that that was going to justify a lot of pesticide use, where perhaps, especially in places where kids play, and I thought playgrounds were monitored by the state, but maybe I'm wrong. I know in schools you're not allowed to put pesticides down, but I would love to see us, especially where kids are, be really judicious on pesticides.
Yep, we've talked a lot about that. All right, so we should look at that language to make sure it doesn't imply that we support the use of pesticides, and be careful of the wording there. So we want to take a crack at a goal statement. I can play with that, or Cara, if you wanted to send me some suggested language, if you've got something rolling around in your head, that would be really helpful.
Happy to.
Okay. Do we need to make any statement about trash, or is that sort of self-evident that trash gets picked up? That might be too granular.
I think I skip that. Yeah.
Skip that. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So probably something more. I think I heard something more about trees specifically. Did I?
Yes, with the arborist to do kind of an overview as
right. Okay.
What is the status currently?
Okay.
I was just curious, what about the town tree warden? Just in terms of cost, could the tree warden do the overview with us, or no? Is that too much?
I know Pam calls on him when she has a specific issue about a tree. So when we were doing the basketball court over, there were a couple trees, and there was some question about if we redo the tree here and do such and such with the roots, what will the impact be? And she had him come over and take a look at it. Whether we could get him to come and look at all of the trees in all of our parks, Jan, I literally don't know. We would have to find that out, because when you think about all of our properties, we're talking about
a lot of trees,
thousands and thousands of trees. I do believe, Jim, don't we have, I know from a safety standpoint that we do some kind of assessments to make sure we don't have any at-risk trees, at least in some of the parks, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly in the parks. I mean, there's some areas that, we're not, in Selleck's Woods or Woodland, we obviously can't, check every tree and everything like that. But they're frequently checking trees when we have a dangerous tree or something like that. We can bring in a tree expert, then they're looking at trees in the area as well. But no, we don't have a categorization of trees or of every tree in parks. We just don't have the manpower to do that.
When you say they're looked at, is that Jim and his staff, or is the tree warden brought in?
So it depends on the damage to the tree. If there's some trees you can tell right off that they're dangerous, and that we have to take them down. If our guys can take them down, depending on the size of them, the location of them, then we will do that ourselves. If not, we will definitely contact the tree warden. He'll come out and take a look at it, and he'll be his determination if that tree needs to come down or not.
Okay.
Or be trimmed back or something like that. And a lot of the times our guys just can do the work. Sometimes they can't, or we have to bring in, a company to deal with that.
Okay. Okay. So I'll kind of fiddle with the language on that a little bit, so we can make use of the resources that we have available to us. But yeah, I mean, the bigger, more wooded parks, it's definitely much more difficult because of just the volume of and trees do fall down. I mean, you walk through woodland and there's fallen trees all over the place, and they're left there. Okay.
Yeah, but I want to say thanks, Jim. Your team has done a great job cleaning up after the last couple of storms too in woodland, and I know you guys don't get compliments very much from the woodland crowd, so, so you have done a really good job because I can go through the back paths and I'm allowed to, and I can walk through most of them.
I was just curious, since I wasn't part of the conversation in August, but when the arborist topic came up, was it the intention to have an arborist look at all the trees in like the woodlands too, or would it also be just select trees that are in very visible areas of the parks?
I think it would be the latter.
I think there was a discussion about an inventory, but it's such a big project.
Well, Amy is working with Jimmy to do an inventory of just cherry lawn to really identify all of the different species. I don't know that was particular to whether there were trees that had problems, but it was really just to categorize the great variety of trees that are in that park. So I believe she's working on that with him. Which is a great starting point. And I also know from walking through the park with Laura Mosier, who I forwarded an article that she had sent to all of you in the last day or so, that she was the one who really said, based on a lot of the invasives and vines that are going up a lot of these trees in the one section of cherry lawn, she said, we're gonna lose these trees. So, we got to start figuring that out. So, and that's going to take some money because it's way more than a group of volunteers on a Saturday can even dream of attempting. So, okay. All right. So any other specific topics you think need to be woven in, or I can make a few of these adjustments and then get it out to everybody. And then we'll look at it. And then I was thinking as a next step that we want to get, we've certainly talked about having a public hearing, but I was thinking that before that when we agree on the document, that we would send it out to selected individuals in the community to ask for their input, and whether we'd get everybody's input or 50% or 20%, I have no sense on that. Jotting down who I think those constituents might be. I had the selectmen, both the current and our candidates. Probably the Board of Finance, because we're saying right up there, you guys aren't going to give us the money. We can't do much here. I was thinking the athletic associations, because they do use the parks for their programs. The different Friends groups, Friends of Celix Woods, Friends of Woodland, Friends of Cherry Lawn, the Cherry Lawn Gardeners, all of those groups. The Pollinator Pathway are good friends there. Probably the Parks and Rec, both the RTM committee and Finance and Budget. Perhaps the Darien Foundation and the Darien Athletic Foundation, because they've supported us financially. Maybe there's some other foundations in town. Other ideas of people that, we would sort of want to preview this with and get their input.
How about the beautification committee?
Okay, perfect. Okay. Others?
Did you say the Nature Center because of Cherry Lawn?
I didn't, thank you. I was just sort of brainstorming and I was like, I'm sure there's more I'm just not coming up with, but Nature Center, yeah, thank you. Others? Okay, well, if you guys think of something offline, just shoot me an email and just let me know so we can, the think about who we might wanting to add in and get their reaction. I think.
Athletic groups, maybe all the athletic groups that use our facilities.
Yep, I listed that.
Well, I didn't. I missed it. Sorry. I probably.
Yep. So, I mean, I think a key is really going to be our, as you know, most of the selectmen board is turning over. So we're really gonna have a whole new crop of folks coming in. So once we get through the election and know who is seated in those positions, I think that's going to be very important for us to get an understanding of their, views and commitments, to the parks. I think that's going to be really, really important. So, because that's going to set the whole tone of where we go. Okay. Well, if people think of you have the aha moments, oh yeah, we should include this one or that one or whatever, please, just as I said, shoot me a note. Okay, in other words, I'll kind of try to fine tune this. I jotted down some notes. I hope I got anything. If anybody jotted stuff down and just want to shoot it to me so we don't miss it, I would really appreciate that. That would be very helpful. Okay. Tying into the standards of care, and I think it'll be really helpful, is our upcoming fall parks tour. We need to set the date. I talked to Pam. For her, the 3 Saturdays in October, the 16th, the 23rd, or the 30th all work for her. Yeah, Kathy, you were with us last year. I think you had joined us by then, so you were with us. So Cara and Janet, we usually meet, I can't remember if it's 8 or 9. I forget how aggressive I am with the morning start, but sometime between 8 and 9 on a Saturday morning, and we usually run till about 12 or 1 o'clock. Usually we manage to hit about 5 parks, try to rotate it each year. And, Pam will give us a walk through, but it's really just a chance to look at the condition of the facilities, anything in particular that Pam wants to point out to us. And I think this year it would be great to do it sort of with the lens of the concept of the standards of care and how we want things to be looking. Mm-hmm. It's just always, we've done it 2 or 3 times now. I can't remember. But it's always just always a really nice time also for us as a commission to be together in a little bit less of a formal setting and just to get out in the parks and enjoy them. So it's always a really, really nice morning. I think everybody has always had a really great time doing it. So, the weekend of the 16th, on the 17th, is the scheduled date for the ribbon cutting for the basketball and the paddleboard courts that Sunday. So you could argue that's not a good time to do it because we already have the ribbon cutting for those who can make it, or you could just say, you know what, I'm going to be here that weekend and let's just kill one weekend and knock it all off in one weekend and move on. I can go either way on that one, but I did want to mention that.
Pickleball courts.
Pickleball. Sorry, said the wrong thing. Pickleball. Or the 23rd or 3rd. Much past that, it does start getting chilly. I remember last year, I think it was Halloween. I think it was the 31st. It was quite nippy in the morning. We were all in, winter hats and mittens, and it was actually pretty darn cold. And then I think by the time we finished up at Pear Tree Beach, it had kind of warmed up and we'd shed some layers. But I think if we go too much later than that, it's kind of cold to be outside for 4 or 5 hours, even though we do have the breaks in the car. So I'm fine with any of those dates. So I guess if there's a date that, just doesn't work for, we'll try to peel off dates that don't work for a lot of people. I did check with Amy, and I think she said she can't do I think it was the 16th.
Lori, I told you I'm out that weekend, right?
I'm sorry, I was looking down, so I didn't hear who that was.
Yeah. When we were texting, I had just told you that I'm away the 15th to the 17th.
The 16th, all right. So there's 2 people we know the 16th does not work for. So generally, do people have problems with either the 23rd or the 30th? Does anybody just... you're on mute, Susan.
Oh, I can't do the weekend of the 23rd, 24th. Sorry.
Okay. Does the 30th work for everybody? It's Halloween, so maybe that's good because people will be around for Halloween. That's a yes?
That's good for me.
Okay. Okay. All right. So maybe we go with the 30th then, just like we did last year towards the end, and people are around for trick or treat or whatever anyway.
Right.
Okay. All right. So we'll aim for October 30th. And our meeting is the 20th. So, okay. So it's a little bit of space. And I'll talk to any, you know, we tend to focus on the bigger parks. I have to go back and look at where we went last year. But any ones in particular, people are like, yes, I think it's really important we get there.
Well, I think we should revisit Cherry Lawn again,
Okay.
since it seems to present the biggest problem.
Yep. Okay. Okay. So we'll definitely add Cherry Lawn. So I was over there the other day and just driving in, you know, I mean, I've been there. I just was driving and it's like, oh, this is so pretty. I just, you know, just had that moment. We just paused for a minute. It was just like so pretty. It was chock-a-block full of people. I could barely find a spot to park. But it just was like, wow, this is just so nice. So just had that moment where I just was able to stop and just really appreciate it. So we'll do that. Any others particular people are really like, I absolutely positively feel we need to get there? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, then I will pull together a proposed schedule. I'll look back at the last couple of years of what we did and pull something together. Okay. Cool. All right. That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Jim, do you want to go over the highlights of Pam's director's report? Hopefully everybody had a chance to read it, but if you just want to focus on some of the highlights.
Sure. Yeah, if anybody has any specific questions about, you know, just feel free to ask. Couple things to note that Alan finished his Eagle Scout project at Baker Park. So if you get some time to go over there and look at that with the new repaired bridge and the sign display, you know, definitely take a minute to go over and look at that. I think there's some pictures that are included with that as well. Registration for the fall and winter was at the end of August. It was very busy. We have a lot of programs with some wait lists that we're trying to accommodate people as much as we possibly can. So we're programming for the last year and a half with the pandemic, or the last year, I should say, with the pandemic. Well, maybe a year and a half. It's been pretty, probably the busiest we've ever seen it. So we're very busy with programming. The damage from Storm Ida was immense. I don't know if anybody hopefully got a chance to look at Pear Tree Beach and the damage on the front beach. I'm sorry, the back beach. When you first drive into Pear Tree, half of the beach, or a good third of the beach, was gone after that storm. And by Labor Day weekend, our crew had pretty much fixed it up. You wouldn't even have known that there was a storm of that magnitude there. Our garage itself, where our maintenance equipment is, and our maintenance workers, their headquarters basically, had, with a storm back in July, had about 3.5 feet of water in their bays where they keep all their trucks and their equipment and all that. This storm was almost 10 feet of water. So we had a lot of equipment that was damaged. Some of it they were able to repair, and they had a lot of equipment that was saved. So preventively, they moved a lot of equipment, but the water was about 3 or 4 inches from the ceiling in some parts. So they basically had no equipment to work with after that storm. So for them to clean up as much of the parks as they did, Town Hall, Jeannie knows that we drive by it every day. That field was a mess, an absolute disaster. So for the work that they did, you know, I think we need to commend the maintenance crew. Other than that, the concession error, Pam and I met with Nikki. You can see her profit and loss report. She lost money at Pear Tree and made a little bit of money at Weed Beach. The weather, probably one of the worst summers that I can remember since you know, working at and being in charge of the beaches. We've you know, she lost, I think, 20 days due to the weather. It was either raining or hot and humid pretty much every day this summer. And then our Down Under group, I'm sorry, not Down Under, our Thumbs Up group that does the kayaking and paddleboarding. They had a successful summer despite the weather and turned back to the town $6,000 for renting the space. They had not one weekend where they were operational both days from 11 till 5 just because of the weather, but they overall had a successful summer. So I think those are a few of the things I wanted to touch on. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer.
Thank you, Jim. I have a question. You said that the stand-up board returned $6,000 to the town. A, that's
Yep.
great, but B, I think having stand-up boards is just a great amenity. How much does the concessionaire return money to town, or how does that contract work with the concessionaire?
So we had it was a percentage. So 7% of her gross income is turned back to the town, which wasn't a huge amount, but it was in the ballpark a little bit more. I think if the weather had been better, it would have been better than what we've done in past summers. But the contract we had with them was 7%.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback on the feedback on the food was very positive. So, and when I spoke to Pam and I caught up on Friday or Thursday for an hour or so, she said that all in all, Nikki was happy. I said, is she going to be interested in coming back next year? And Pam said yes. She felt that this was a building and a learning year. So that was, good news because a lot of hurdles. As you remember, our freezer broke down like within the first week, and she lost hundreds of dollars worth of ice cream inventory. The weather was horrible. It just one thing after another. So there were a lot of bumps along the road. So I was pleased to hear that she is interested in coming back next year and really building on that success. But it was rough this year. It really was. But I know we lost General Tier. She's still in there. I know she said she was down there with her kids a lot, and that you said that even during the weekdays you saw a pretty good stream going into the snack bar.
Yeah, Weed Beach was really popular. There were a lot of people eating. So hopefully next year is a better year with weather, and more publicity I think would be good. I don't know, I don't think a lot of people really knew about it. Like I would tell people a lot, but I think just that would help a lot.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I definitely went down, a couple days just taking a break from work, and I was, didn't have something for lunch in the house, and we went, just went down, got lunch, had lunch on the beach for half an hour, and then back to work, and it was really, really pleasant. And I think you all know she also does the food service in the Norotan Yacht Club, and somebody said to my husband that the service was a little slow at the club this summer, and people were like, well, it's the same food. I just go over to Weed Beach and get it and bring it back. So I thought it was pretty interesting. So because it was faster. So that was.
I just wanted to clarify, it was 7% of gross income or net income?
Gross.
Gross. So in theory, we got 7% of that number on top the 91,896.71, Jim?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
Turned out, yeah.
So basically almost as plus or minus like as much as the stand-up paddle brought in.
Mm-hmm.
For the town, given the varying conditions. Interesting. Thank you.
I also just want to know what an unusual year it was for staffing, like staffing shortages, and also just like pandemic related things like families finally traveling who didn't get to travel last summer, maybe going to their clubs more this summer because they might have felt safer this summer, things like that. So I'm really glad that Nikki's going to stay on board because I think they did a really phenomenal job despite all these circumstances, and I'm looking forward to next year.
Yeah, I agree, Terry. It was a very tough summer for any kind of service provider. In our travels, which were pretty extensive during August and early September. I mean, all the different places, we went up and down, through Massachusetts and New Hampshire and Maine and whatever. We saw it consistently. A lot of places that the club tried to book for our group dinners and stuff. A lot of places were like, we just can't take you because we don't have the help. So we definitely saw that a lot this summer. So it was very, very challenging. So, okay. Jim, the other thing I know, Pam included in the packet a spreadsheet of sort of a first crack at the capital improvement project.
Before you can move on, can I just say one thing? I hope you guys will talk about exactly what you want at Pear Tree for going into next year for the concessions. I think it's, as you say, it's a delicate balance, and it was difficult this year. It was close, it was not always open, and I realize the reasons why, but like I say, I hope going forward everybody will think long and hard about exactly what you want with concessions at Pear Tree.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have to have a discussion about that because the bottom line is she was just losing money. Her numbers, the numbers presented are combination of the two, and she was losing a lot of money. And, especially you take somebody coming out of a pandemic who had already had her business crushed for over a year, was just not in a position to absorb any more losses. And I think Pam made the right call. We needed to be respectful of that. But, the fact of the matter is that the demand just, was not, and we learned something from that. The demand was not there. It seemed like Pear Tree was very quiet this summer compared to the previous summer. Certainly the times I went over there, same thing, a couple of days, we just grabbed lunch, went over and had lunch there. My husband on his bike rides goes through there 3 or 4 days a week, and just, plus the car counts that we got from our summer security staff were all particularly low at Pear Tree this summer. So, those of you who frequent it more, maybe you can, comment, but it just didn't seem like it was heavily trafficked this summer at all. So, that's a problem. If we're not producing the population at the beach, by definition, the snack bar person is not going to get the demand. Oh, okay. Any more on that before I circle back? Okay. Anyway, so when Pam and I talked about the capital improvement projects, I know just what she had listed. I myself had a lot of questions on in terms of, how she prioritized things. So I think it's just there. Take a look at it. We definitely I think we'll have another discussion at the October meeting when she's back. And then we want to think it, in the context of what we see on the tour in October, and then in the context of the standards of care. So I don't want to say I don't consider this kind of locked in or whatever. It was just sort of Pam's first crack at things on her mind that she knows that need to be attended to at some point. Okay. But we'll be doing a lot more work on that as we go into the fall and the early winter. Okay. And that'd be a good thing, to have with us or whatever, the different parks that we hit and whatever, if you say, okay, we need to fix this, to take a look at it and say, do we think this really needs to be done now and not wait 3 years or whatever? Okay. All righty. Okay. Any more questions for Jim?
Jim, the damage to the equipment in the town hall garage, that's all capital, right? Is that covered under insurance, or is this something that we need to put into future our numbers?
Yeah. So the town hopefully will be getting some money back. We'll see whether it's a federal money that they're going to be trying to get to replace that. That's money that's the town may have to go to contingency or something like that to replace those. We can't function without them. I think that's the last storm was about $45,000 worth of damage. So those are going to be replaced. I don't think that's something we can really budget for. Hopefully some insurance monies or federal funds will come to replace a lot of that. So
we're self-insured anyway, right? So the money would have to be FEMA. Or, I mean, not FEMA, or federal, right?
It would that's the town is trying to get, some, I think they've asked for residents to submit pictures and, try to, get it. And I think all the towns are doing that, to try to make it a, almost a disaster area to try to get some federal funding from it. But one way or another, it's not, it's going to have to come out of insurance or some kind of funding from the town to replace it.
Thank you.
The only other thing, Laura, I just want to mention is that we have a couple events coming up. That we were supposed to have a movie at Highland Park last Friday that got canceled because of the rain. We had a storm that came through. We're rescheduled this Friday, which is going to be rainy. So we've made it rescheduled again to October 1st. So I think an email went out. So that's number one. And then the next day, October 2nd, is Rocktoberfest, where we're going to have bands. That's Jamie's bread and butter there. So she's going to be, I think there's a couple notes here that, she's looking for volunteers. So if anybody's interested in helping to volunteer for that, let Jamie know. And that starts up, gates open at 11, and the event's from 12 to 6 next Saturday. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and I'll wrap it up. It just feels like since we met in July, there's been a lot going on, and a lot of these are common themes. I did want to update you that Pam and I met with Jamie Stevenson and Kate Bush. Oh gosh, I guess it was early August now, regarding programming at Highland Farm, and you all may have seen in the paper or whatever that there was a selectmen's meeting. There was a discussion on that, which was after we met with them. It probably all started with the porta potty, but Pam continued to get requests from different athletic groups about using Highland Farm for programming, which really prompted the meeting and, the selectmen's discussion about putting tighter parameters around what types of programming can and cannot be scheduled there. Now, as you know, Highland is not a park, so it is therefore not under our purview, and we don't set the rules. So for the most part, we are sort of interested parties, the nuance being because the Park and Recreation Department can schedule programs on it, like the Rocktoberfest, or, we've been scheduling Tiny Tot soccer and different things. Pam needs clear guardrails on what she can schedule there that is in official Parks and Rec program. And then secondarily, she and the department have responsibility for fielding all of these different calls from different groups who either want to schedule a multi-week program, or I think there was one of the PTAs wanted to have a school event there or whatever. She's been the one kind of scheduling that and making the decisions. But it seems now that there's more interest in kind of maybe ratcheting that down and limiting what can happen there. So the selectmen didn't take any final vote on it. I think it's going to come up at a future meeting, but they did definitely have a preliminary discussion where the bias seems to be less programming versus more. But, I'd encourage you all to kind of, keep an eye and up to date on that in terms of what's happening there. I mentioned that.
Hey, Lori, what was the reason to do less programming? Having less use of the facilities?
I think it's the concept that particular property should be more passive use and just sort of open for general play and more quiet enjoyment, coupled with the need to be careful about any activities that could be disruptive to Ox Ridge, and particularly the horses, that could startle them and create accidents. So it's a combination of the two. Pam told me one time there was somebody there that was shooting off some kind of like rockets there, which is clearly not allowed.
I know they had other things too that were flying around there that were disturbing the horses.
Right. Right. So some of it's just people not following the existing rules, but then it's also, it's really that balance of really what they want. I think it's what they want the feel of the property to be. So there clearly seemed to be some kind of disconnect in terms of an understanding of what, wouldn't be okay. So I think they're, looking at formulating something more that'll be clearer to Pam and the staff. And I've not heard any more about it since that one meeting. Have you, Jim? No. So I think it's going back on their agenda. And again, it's a little bit interesting because, the current select board is opining on it, but there's going to be a considerable amount of turnover in that board. So I guess a different board could have a different view or not. It's, remains to be seen. I don't quite remember a time, although I could be wrong. In all the years I've been in town, there was, in one election, quite so much turnover in the board, but I could just be forgetful on that topic. I mentioned that Juliet Kane from the Pollinator Pathway had shared an article about Stanford adopting rules around the use of pesticides, and I will circulate that all out to you. Different, public hearings that have been of great interest, and I think, need to tie into, our thinking about the parks. On Monday night, there was a public hearing about flooding. I don't know if any of you listened into that. Certainly people were giving specific testimony about, the impacts that the recent 2 storms have had on their properties. Certainly we heard about the impact of our own town hall properties, which are very, very, it's just breathtaking to think that kind of water went into a fairly new building. And then last night was the hearing with Eversource regarding their proposed to effectively clear cut along Little Brook Road, and then it would go into Selleck's and Dunlap Woods. And it was about, I don't know if any of you listened to that, it was about an hour and a half. Eversource made a brief presentation, and then there were quite a few local speakers who were quite passionate, and, as is very, I guess, typical of Darien. We have the benefit of living in a town of well-educated, intelligent people who are very good at doing research and laying out very well-supported arguments. And there were a number of speakers, both Juliet and Deepika spoke, a number of different people who had really done that. I think I learned a whole lot about trees last night in terms of people knew the difference between how much water a 30-year-old tree absorbs versus a 100-year-old tree, and how many gallons of water tree roots do absorb, and how the actual leaves slow down. It was really quite interesting, but very compelling cases. Certainly a lot of talk about the tree canopy. I don't think that was a term I had heard 2 months ago, but have since read numerous articles over the summer in different news outlets and whatever about the importance of tree canopies in terms of global warming. So, one of the points was, on one hand, Eversource is trying to protect us for, the impact of these more severe storms, but by taking down hundreds and hundreds of trees, you're exacerbating the problem. So the tree warden has 3 days from last night to render his decision. I would not want to be that man. And then any aggrieved party on either side of the decision, I think, has 10 days to appeal. But certainly some trees in the park would be cut down. There's certain sections where basically Eversource just has the right to do it, and there's really nothing we can say. But it kind of, the sense of everything I heard last night is people aren't fighting, well, this tree versus that tree. They're really saying, Eversource, you need to go back and come up with a better plan for vegetation management rather than just coming and just cutting everything down. So, I'd encourage you all to just stay abreast of, of what's happening this, because again, it ties back to all the things we're talking about in terms of the parks and natural resources and maintaining our ecosystems, which was talked about a lot last night as well. And of course it was recorded if you want to go back and listen to it. We had a meeting of the Advisory Commission on the Coastal Waters earlier this week. Certainly there's interest there in the water quality impacts that we had during the storms, because a whole lot of sewage was dumped into Long Island Sound as a result of these storms, which is problematic. A lot of trouble with tree logs and different things getting into the harbor, which is very dangerous for boaters. A lot of sediment, so a lot of concern around that. One of the things the commission does is has one individual who's appointed to the state sort of shellfish commission. We work with Roger Freight in terms of his activities in harvesting shellfish. He has a requirement to reseed beds. He's actually going to be doing the reseeding of the beds this Friday. And again, there was a lot of talk about the importance of the oyster beds and the importance and how the oysters really can clean. I think, I think it's 50 or some huge amount of gallons of water one oyster cleans every day, and the importance for the cleanliness and protecting our local waters. And there's a lot of interest in the group and really encouraging more of the shellfishing and the oyster beds. So we talk a lot about that. So it's just interesting of all these different things right now all seem to be coming back to the same thing, and that everybody is, it almost feels like hyper-focused suddenly on all of these different impacts as a result of the storm, and that, we really need to be much more mindful and accelerate our activities towards protecting our local resources. So it's been very interesting. Even it just feels like even in the last couple of months since we had those two big storms that the tone has really, really changed. I don't know if any of you have observed that as well, but just the different types of articles you're reading and the conversations in town and statewide and nationally seems to be very, very different. I noticed on the town website that the Pollinator Pathway, in conjunction with the Department of Public Works, is actually having a tree planting event on the morning of October 2nd. It looks like they are looking for volunteers. They got a grant, and they'll be planting a variety of different types of trees that work well with each other and tend to grow well. And I guess the Department of Public Works, Jim, has identified different locations. I think it's around Town Hall, as I understand it, to plant those trees. So it's right on the front of the town website. So if you're interested in helping out with that, to plant some of those trees, that's a nice event that's coming up. So I wanted to mention that. And again, really just wanted to echo the comments everybody made to really, thank our parks crew for the amazing work they did at, Pam and I went over to Pear Tree the next morning. I was just like, oh my God, what are we going to do here? This is like major problem. It really looks like the water washed down from Long Neck Point. I don't think this was water coming up from the sound. I think it was water just literally ran down with such velocity. It was, literally, the sand cliff was like this high. It was just unbelievable. And it was just like somebody had taken a knife and just sliced out a section of the beach and just taken it away. And there were lots of chunks of asphalt and big rocks. And of course there was glass. And it was unbelievable. And the fact that the crew got that thing put, I just can't believe they got that put back together as well as they did. We may need some more sand to fill in because they just moved around the remaining sand. But they really did quite a job. But I was over there on Saturday night at the boat club party, and it was a high tide and a full moon. And the water on West Beach was literally all the way up to, it was all the way over the sand up to and just over the curb in the parking lot. So that night it was coming that way, but I think in the storm it came down. So there was some damage to Diller as well, but the park crew has repaired that. The bridge for the running path have taken care of that. So they've really done yeoman's duty in putting things back together. So Jim and Jeannie, please express our appreciation to the crew for, I'm sure they're around just tremendous pressure that they've all been under. So, and the job that they've done. So we thank them very much. So I think that's all I had tonight.
Lori, may I ask you
yes.
Just a quick question. As a commission, we're responsible for the beaches and the boat ramp. If the harbor in and around Darien needed to get dredged for boats, is that the commission purview or that's something else?
That's not us. No.
That's not us. And is the boat ramp the Parks and Rec Commission, or is that something else?
Yes. Yes, the boat ramp falls under us, and hopefully at some point we will hear back from DEEP about our application, and we can talk about how we're going to proceed with dealing with, the parking lot flooding and the boat ramp. But we're just waiting. It's been very slow, very, very slow. But no, the dredging and all would not be us. That would be more, I think, under the harbor master, and the coastal which is an advisory committee, certainly would be weighing in, and then the town itself. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, okay. Is there any need to go into new business? Yep.
I have a question. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Not well.
I couldn't get my mic on fast enough. You mentioned the DEP. Has the application been sent in to the DEP for the boat ramp and the parking lot?
I think the whole project has been in for some time, yes.
Because we've heard nothing on the building committee about that, so I was wondering where we stood.
Mike Scrow sends updates from time to time that he gets from Dan Biggs.
And the last one I got was that it was still not sent in.
I thought it was sent in, and they needed to do some more borings, and we went ahead and got the funding we needed, and those borings were done.
Yes, the borings were done, but I didn't know that Dan sent the application in. Maybe we should check.
Okay, then we should check that. My understanding was that everything that needed to be in with DEP to get their approval was in.
Okay, I'll check with Mike.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any need to go into new business? Anybody have anything? No? Okay. And if not, we can take a motion to adjourn. Oh, I know. One last thing I wanted to say is I wanted to thank Tierra again for facilitating the mural up at Pear Tree. It looks really nice, and I like the sign with the description, but very, very nice. I really like it. So how long will it stay up, Tierra?
Nice. We'll talk to Pam. It was going to be super temporary.
Okay.
We were going to take it down. We were going to take it down even at the end of the month. So we'll see.
Okay. Okay. But really like it. Looks really nice.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, I think that was it was a really good idea. Okay. All right. With that, then I will take a motion to adjourn.
Hey, move.
I heard two. I think I heard Kathy slightly first.
She is,
We'll
yeah.
go Kathy first and second with Mary Louise. And then we actually have to have a roll call to adjourn. So. I'm a yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Susan.
Okay.
Tierra.
Yeah.
Cara.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
And Janet.
Yes.
All right, everybody. All right. Have a good rest of the month. I think we're officially into fall. Our next meeting is October 20th. I can't say right now whether we'll be virtual in person. Let's see how things play out in the next month or so. But then we'll plan on seeing everybody together in the parks on October 30th. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night. And again, welcome to Cara and Janet.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.